video moves quickly. Expect to pause often to read through the sample passages. The word setting refers to the location and time frame in which a story or an event in a story takes place. The setting often affects and/or is affected by the makeup and behavior of the characters in a piece of fiction. The setting can be just a backdrop for a story, but in great works of fiction, setting is often a powerful and integral ingredient in the story, sometimes to the extent that the setting can be considered a character in its own right. Setting can serve all of the following functions: provide specific information on time and place, describe an actual or fictional location, and may focus on weather as a way to develop an emotionally charged religious, moral, or mental landscape, expose geographical, historical, or social environments, establish atmosphere and conflict, behave as an antagonist, a character, and reflect the behavior, emotions of the characters in the story. You will sometimes hear two broad types of setting discussed. Macro setting, this is the big picture setting, like the city of New Orleans in 1898. In a micro setting, this is a smaller setting, like the interior of a small second-story apartment. Consider the following examples of macro and micro settings from the novel Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Notice how the settings in these examples perform many of the functions mentioned earlier. In case you're not familiar with Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment, it will be helpful in looking at these examples to know that the main character, Raskolnikov, is about to murder a harmless old woman and that this is causing him to struggle with himself internally. First, take a look at a macro setting. The heat in the street was terrible, and the airlessness, the bustle and the plaster, scaffolding, bricks, and dust all about him, and that special Petersburg stench, so familiar to all who were unable to get out of town in summer, all worked painfully upon the young man's already overwrought nerves. The insufferable stench from the pothouses, which are particularly numerous in that part of the town, and the drunken men whom he met continually, although it was a working day, completed the revolting misery of the picture. And pothouses here means taverns. From this passage, we find that it's summer in St. Petersburg. The physical landscape is hot, dirty, stagnant, an enclosed urban landscape with the foul odor of people in hot and close quarters. The mental landscape is stifling, claustrophobic, causing a feeling of being trapped and unable to escape, like a rat in a cage. The emotional landscape is draining and burdensome. It's an atmosphere that creates a sense of desperation and revolting misery. Notice that the mental and emotional landscapes reflect Raskolnikov's inner turmoil and conflict. There's a developing tension between the city and Raskolnikov. This contributes to the conflict of man versus environment, so the city is an antagonist. There's a growing angst within Raskolnikov due to his inability to cope with the chaos and filth surrounding him, and Petersburg mirrors and antagonizes his erratic and frenetic behavior. Now take a look at a micro setting. The little room into which the young man walked, with yellow paper on the walls, geraniums and muslin curtains in the windows, was brightly lighted up at that moment by the setting sun. So the sun will shine like this then, too, flashed as it were by chance through Raskolnikov's mind, and with a rapid glance he scanned everything in the room, trying as far as possible to notice and remember its arrangement. But there was nothing special in the room. The furniture, all very old and of yellow wood, consisted of a sofa with a huge bent wooden back, an oval table in front of the sofa, a dressing table with a looking-glass fixed on it between the windows, chairs along the walls, and 2 or 3 halfpenny prints in yellow frames, representing German damsels with birds in their hands. That was all. In the corner, a light was burning before a small icon. Everything was very clean. The floors and the furniture were brightly polished. Everything shone. An icon here is a variant of icon. It's a painting of Christ on wood. From this passage we find this is a small room. The physical landscape is small, with yellow paper, geraniums, muslin curtains. It's bright. There's a sofa, table, dressing table, looking glass, chairs, yellow wood. Nothing special. Prints on walls in yellow frames, a light burning. Everything is clean and brightly polished. Everything shone. So the mental landscape is orderly and worn, much like the old woman inhabitant. It's crowded with aging furniture and clutter, but strikingly clean. The emotional landscape, so Raskolnikov is acutely aware of the yellowness being juxtaposed with the worn furniture. This glaring contrast disturbs him. The mental and emotional landscapes continue to reveal Raskolnikov's inner conflict, juxtaposing his turmoil with the old woman's orderliness. Here we have Raskolnikov's flash of justification for his future action. His awareness of the light in the icon, a religious symbol, underscores his awareness of the moral weight of his action. This is a further revealing of that man versus self conflict. His intense preoccupation with the cleanliness of the room indicates his reaction to the discrepancy of this place and the possible havoc that will be brought on by his plan. So you can see that the setting can do much more than just show time and place in a work of fiction. Keep this in mind while you're reading your novel and other works. Don't dismiss the setting as merely a backdrop. Explore it. Look for metaphors, clues to character and conflict, and anything else you can find, and see how it enhances your understanding and enjoyment of the story.